Joseph Talbot asked the question of the age. This should be tacked on to every studio executive's forehead with a sharp little pointy tack. You print this out and tack it on there. You can take it off when they get the point. Joseph Talbot says, every aspect of movies today have a superfluous amount of talent going to the production except for the scripts. Why? I just had an insight to this just this second, and I think it's because the studio executives, of all the things that studio executives want to be, they want to be directors because directors have got all the glamour and all the power and all the, casting couch and all that other stuff, and they get all the credit and all the other thing. But if I had to really guess, I never thought about this before, not before this very instant, but I bet you that every studio executive out there, the people that approve these movies and the budgets, what they really want to be is writers. I've seen them in action. I've seen them during the notes. That's when you really get to find out what these people are really made out of. I've seen lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of network executives giving notes. Let me tell you something. The network executive is the dumbest creature that ever lived on the earth. Can't feed itself, can't clothe itself. It's nothing but rampant ego, power, greed, and sin. With legs. That's what they are. And it looks like, I'm sorry, my playback is locked up. It looks like we still got a good web signal, so I have to go ahead and get this thing going again. That's what they are. They're awful, 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 awful people. And what they want is they want to be perceived as deep. And what I really mean by that is they want to be perceived as creative. They want to be perceived as creative. And somehow or another, the system has kept them away from being creative because they know they'll screw it up. But the typical network note would be somebody's watching Unforgiven, and some 27-year-old who's making $300,000 a year as the vice president in charge of development is watching a movie like Unforgiven, some Clint Eastwood masterpiece, or Gran Torino. And then it's like time to give notes. And this person's making $300,000 a year, and they're C students. They're nothing burgers. They got there through politicking and ass kissing. And so at the end of the screening of Unforgiven, and it's time for notes, they'll lean forward very seriously and they'll say something like, Clint, love it. Think it's just great. I'm a little concerned that it might be a little dark. I'm a little concerned that there's a couple quadrants we could get with just a couple of minor changes. And so I'm wondering, and I'm just throwing this out there, just spitballing it, just throwing it against the wall, see what sticks. But Clint, what do you think would happen if your character were to have a talking dog? What if there was like a talking dog that went? The dog doesn't have to actually speak. It's just he's the only person who can hear the dog. And maybe we could get like, I don't know. Maybe I'm kind of thinking like what's his name? The comedian with the face all screwed. Not Greg Gutfeld. What's his name? The guy who squints all the time. That guy with a crazy voice. He could be the voice of the talking dog, and only your character could hear him. But it add a little humor and a little. He could say wise things too. And Clint Eastwood is sitting there. Now, imagine it's not Clint Eastwood. Imagine it's somebody who has to listen to these idiots, because Clint Eastwood just laugh and get out of the room, and they never do a picture with them again. But imagine that you're not Clint Eastwood. Imagine that your person is dependent on the paycheck that these people are writing, and you have to sit there and listen to this crap. And I've heard it. I've heard stuff exactly like that. I've heard stuff exactly that stupid. I have never, and I did Sunday Morning Shootout for 5 years, 6 years. Gilbert Gottfried. I'd done a number of specials for Discovery Channel, History Channel that I edited, and I am telling you, 1 in 10 network notes are marginal improvements, and the rest of them are just absurd. And so they all want to be creative. They want to be deep. You see, they want to be thought of as thinkers. Actors have this disease in spades. When you see an actor on the set of a movie with War and Peace under their arms and wearing glasses that don't have any prescriptions in them, they're lenses, there's just no prescription. I can't tell you how many times I've seen this. I've seen this frequently. I've seen actors sitting in Starbucks with glasses, and I just take a look because I have a pretty good feeling. And you can just kind of move around a little bit, just kind of glance over there. He says no kind of refraction at all because there's no lens in there. It's just a piece of flat glass. But they're wearing glasses because it makes them look smart. And they're sitting there studying, very quietly studying, War and Peace. And every now and then they pick up the book just to turn it over, or something so everybody can see. This is the kind of posing and vanity that makes up this town. And And so the only people that don't get any respect in this business are writers. And the reason writers don't get any respect is because they're whores. I'm generalizing, but the Writers Guild has 20 IQ points on the Directors Guild, and it's got 40 IQ points on the Screen Actors Guild. But what writers don't have, as a general rule, is they don't have any guts at all. None. They don't have any guts at all. There's a classic Hollywood joke, and I don't remember how it works. It's not a great joke, but some producer is sitting outside a bar, and he's in a limousine. He tells the driver, he says, "Son, I'll give you $200 if you go into that bar and bring me out a whore within 5 minutes." And 3 minutes later, this guy shows up, and he's got a writer with him. Pretty much it, right? They're filled with self-loathing, most of the writers in this business. They're just filled with absolute self-loathing. There's something about them that works well in the dark. And there's a whole Stratosphere Lounge to be done on nothing but how so many of the mythologies we've come to believe are written by writers who want to undo and redo their dysfunctional childhood. John Hughes made a living at this. John Hughes was a nerd who got turned down in high school and made a series of movies where the underdog nerd gets the girl, and other nerds like me grew up watching these movies and believing it, but it ain't never happened that way, and it ain't never going to happen that way. It just doesn't happen that way. The head cheerleader never leaves the football captain for the dorky guy in the funny outfit because he cares so much about her and because he's got such a great sense of humor. It never happens. It never happens. But we believe it happens because guys like John Hughes and guys like me write stories, and we undo what happened to us, and we write in what we wanted to have happen to us. It's why we become writers. We want to modify reality and change it. And science fiction writing is showing a world that we would like to see, or a world that we wouldn't like to see. It's all very narcissistic, and it has to be. But writers have no guts, and they don't stand up for themselves. They're generally speaking, there have been some writers with pistols and Hemingway and all the rest. They're just exceptions that prove the rules. Writers will do anything to get movies made, and so will actors. But actors are cast to play roles, and so the roles are written by writers, and writers will do anything to get their movies made. So, with all this said, there's a contempt for writers and a desire to want to be one of them, but there's just a general contempt. So you'll make a movie like Avengers, spend $200 million on special effects, and maybe you'll pay the writer. Well, I guess Joss Whedon wrote it. He's got a name because he's a writer-director. He's got power as a director. But if you were to just hire a writer for these things, you pay the guy $50 grand, $100 grand, $200 grand, something like that, on a $200 million movie, because most of these idiots don't understand the power of the story. And without story, you've got nothing. Next question.